Thank you.
He's a super fan, Hans. Let's move on to another super fan, Carol Johnson. Carol is associated very much with Peterborough Speedway, Hans, and I know Carol declared on a previous episode that he too holds you in the highest esteem. Carol.
Yeah, evening, Hans. Yeah, it's. I've met you before at Ulrich's event at Peterborough, and when you had a few laps with us, obviously a little bit rusty, but still could get around. But yeah, it's I've grown up same as Stuart. Hans Nielsen. It's like the only rider on anybody's lips as a youngster growing up, going through 80 cc's to 150s to 200s and so on up to 500s, and it's you always look at that, and I've always looked at you and gone, that's where I want to be. Never ever get to that level. It's you're just a different breed. And we've said this before, but you done a meeting at Peterborough. It would have been in the early 90s. I was only a junior, and I remember going to the tapes. I was on gate 1, you was on gate 2. I pulled up behind you. I thought, here's my hero here. What do I do? That was the last I see of you. The tapes went up, you was gone. I think the next time I see you was in the pits afterwards, and it was like. But for me, an absolute honour to have even been on the same piece of shale as what you was. And that is what you've done for many, many people, not just me, not just Stuart, but people in Speedway. And that is one of the special things I think about this sport. And we always say about a family sport and things like that. And this is what it means to us to have people like yourself that are normal people, as we know, but have done what you've done and still spend the time doing this, what you're doing today. We all appreciate that. And it's just an honor to have you on. But from a professional question, all these years of riding Speedway and being the best in the business, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago on the show about gating. We never see you make a bad start. Now, obviously you did at some point, but what was your focus when you went to the tapes? What was in your mind? What was the thing going through your mind to go, I'm going to get to the first turn first? There's something there that triggers that, and we couldn't put a finger on it. We're all different, but what makes you the machine that you was?
Well, thanks for the kind words. Well, obviously the start, as is important, and I was obviously working hard on it. When I first came to England, I wasn't a particularly good gator. Like you said, you meet your sort of favorite riders and stuff. I met all Sniven Media and so on. The first year I came over, and you kind of watch them. You try to learn from them, technique, not just to start, but everything. And it's difficult really when you're a young kid and you try to learn these things. You don't really have anybody. I mean, these days you have coaches and stuff in national coaches and things and managers and things. But at that time, I felt we were really on our own. I think you probably say the same thing. We just had to learn by watching, and a big part of it, I think, was mainly just emptying your brain before the start. You get up there, and if you were thinking of anything that you shouldn't do, you just didn't drop the clutch quick enough. So I think it was a matter of just emptying your brain, your head, and just focus on that tape. When does it go up, and obviously you're ready when you sit on the bike. You know, is it going to be grippy or slick or whatever, where you have to position yourself on the bike. Whether if it's really grippy, you have to go forward on the bike and all that stuff, and all that stuff you're thinking about when you're coming up to the tapes. You probably already know before you go on up to the tapes, and once you're ready, you know where you're going to sit. And the next thing, before the green light come on, you really have to just empty your brain from any thought from then on. And when the green light comes on, all you're thinking about is just drop that clutch, and everything becomes automatic. If you think too much, you get stiff, and and you just can't make a good start. And so those are some of the things. But of course, you got to have the right equipment, and you see these days as well, some guys can ride one bike and they would never make a start, and they get a new bike and all of a sudden they start crapping. So that is probably even more important today. But those days as well, it was important that you got the right setup, you got a good clutch, and especially the clutch was so important, and still is. When I first came out, I thought, well, the clutch is just got to say bang, it's just got to kick in as quickly as it could because you want to go as quick as you can from the word go. But learned over the years to set up a clutch that was a little softer, so that it didn't just lift, but it would go forward instead of just lifting straight away. And I mean, those things are still the kind of problems guys have today. The clutches, you really is critical to get the clutch set up. Some like it fierce and hard, and others like it a little soft and stuff. I liked it a little soft when I sort of got into know the ins and outs of making start. So little soft start, just lift a little bit, but it goes forward instead of just lifting. That was my sort of main aim. But again, that was very delicate to get that clutch right every time. And when it was right, then I did make most of the starts.
Cool. So was there anybody that you feared at the start line? Because obviously everybody feared you, but
actually, every time I went to the start line, I had great respect also from you guys when I met you. Anybody can pop out the start, have a lucky start or whatever. And so I always, although I knew I was a good starter and had a good chance of winning races, I always had the greatest respect. I knew I had to do my very best in every race to win. But obviously, when you look at the guys that was good gators, well, like Eric Gunnes and Samuel Linker was doing well. Tony Rigerson became a good gator later on, so there's lots of guys. Chris Lewis was doing really well gating, and I liked his style altogether as a racer as well, the racing style, turning and stuff, But there was some good guys skating, and so I always had respect for all the guys. Anybody could pop out the start now and then, having a lucky one, and so you knew you had to do your very best all the time, because the difference from making a bad start and a good start isn't all that much, is it? So you really had to be on top of the game all the time.
Good, brilliant, thank you.
That's absolute gold dust, Hans. So empty your head and don't think too much was the wise words from Hans. Hans, your British career, Wolverhampton, Birmingham, Oxford, and ending at Coventry. And I'm going to introduce now Stuart Robson, who also had a spell with Coventry Bees. Stuart, feel free to ask any questions you want to put to Hans.
Good evening, and just got to echo what everyone said there, what the guys have said there. I mean, like, watching you as a youngster, it was, when I grew up in the Northeast there, the Northeast teams were always sort of what was second division then. So I never really got a chance to see you sort of live as such. And then, then once I'd started off riding, then I, as jokingly said at the beginning, when we were chatting before, I replaced you at Coventry, because you retired at the end of sort of 1994, and I went there in 95. So I remember you had your farewell meeting in 95. Then I was reserved with the Coventry team then, and I remember you asked me to be reserved in the meeting then as well, just to to keep a few of the home riders there. So that was great, to sort of meeting you, and because I think that was probably the first time I'd ever seen you in the flesh, so to speak, because you never really were in the Northeast as much really. But saying that, I do actually remember seeing you at Berwick back in the day when Berwick went first division. You did do a tour of what Stu was just saying about there when you went to Glasgow. You came to Berwick the next day, I think, and I remember you doing a couple of match races then as well. So it was great to see. I mean, I was a young child then. I was your sort of young teenager, but it was brilliant to see you then. But then to get asked to sort of be reserving your meeting was brilliant as well. But when you go back to the starts there, I remember watching the GPs when it was on TV, when it first went on TV, and they were doing slow motions and starts from the start line, and there was probably numerous occasions, but there was one particular time I remember you dropped the clutch and your front wheel didn't turn until you got to the first bend. It come up in the air and didn't move. And I remember like something just something that really sticks out in my mind. That from then you got the bike to the perfect height, on the clutch, and that's one of the things I was watching was what you did with the clutch, and you sort of slipped the clutch, but you got it and held it. You weren't on and off the clutch. You got it and held it and kept it in one position for the whole of the distance to the first bend. And I remember that was something I really tried to do myself, and I eventually got the hang of it. Didn't quite make the starts as well as you did, but now and again I got a lucky one. But yeah, it was something that really stood out with me. And I don't know if you ever knew that you did that, but it was just obviously just come natural to you. But yeah, it was something watching and learning from that as a youngster, trying to sort of emulate it really as a teenager when I was trying to make a name for myself in the sport. But yeah, because as far as questions go, I've not really got much questions. It's just it's good to speak to you and just see you on here and listen to what you say. It's because obviously I've seen you as a rider and whatever. It's in what you have to say now about the MDS is interesting, and I find it fascinating to watch.
So maybe you start up again now. You learned a bit and make some good engagement from now on.
yeah, I could do starting again with it. Yes, definitely.
But it's fun. You mentioned about the class. Obviously, that is also an important thing. Yeah, that you're able to ride it on the class. So if it does, obviously, if it lifts too much, you'll be able to grab it before it becomes goes up too high. But actually, that was. We're talking about watching other guys, learning from other guys, Mays and Olsen and so on. But that was my own kind of thing when I first got on a 500cc. The very first times I actually did that, just automatically, right on that cut straight away. I'm not really sure where that came from. But it's just a natural thing for me to do, and I think that was a big advantage probably for me as well for a while until everybody else caught on it, and as well obviously now everybody's doing it. But yeah, that was an important thing to do, as you should be able to do as well to make a good start. Yeah, but thanks anyway, guys, for the really nice words. It's nice to hear. We can we stay a little longer?
Listen, in all seriousness, and I'm conscious of time because I did promise you we would stick to 30 minutes or so, but and it's very difficult, Hans, because there's so many things that the four of us could consider asking you. One thing I would like to say out loud, and this is for younger supporters who might not have been around, Hans, when you were plying your trade in the UK, and I'm going to share something which is absolutely ridiculous, but I'm going to say it out loud anyway. So, in current day Speedway, we all have our heat leaders in our local teams. We're all conscious of rider averages, and some riders have impressive 10-point averages from time to time. One standout statistic about Hans Nielsen, just to remind people and amplify how good this man was, in Hans's British League career, given the quality of the opposition of that era, in 1986, when I believe, Hans, you were with Oxford, Hans's league average over I'm guessing here it would be 30 plus league matches in a season, his home average was 11.57, and if that wasn't impressive enough, his away league average that same season was a perfect 12. Never headed away from home, Hans, and barely headed at home to Oxford. How can you even achieve such a level, Hans? Are you human, Hans Nielsen?
Well,
he's the goat.
Well, that was a really good year, of course. My best year, also, winning 86, obviously in Poland and Poland in Amsterdam. That was really, and also when my Gottens was going really good. I had a Danish toner who had been starting on my West legs a few years earlier, and I kept doing my engines, the Gottens as well, and did a great job. Whether they're much better than others, I don't know, but they probably were a little better. And obviously with the fact that I was getting better all the time and everything, just coordinating the starts and everything, and becoming good at the starts, and also having the speed when I didn't make the start, I could pass people as well most of the time. So it was some great years, and it was obviously fun to be able to get a maximum through all my away meetings. So it was a bit, in that respect, it was silly that I dropped points at home. But from what I remember, I think I did actually have an engine failure at home, from what I remember. But
okay.
It It was a great year, fun, and also with Oxford, the team was really. We had a great team, and we had a great team spirit with good promotion, and that also helped your performance. Obviously, when you do right in the league, to be able to get an average like that, you need to be happy in the team, and the home track in Oxford was really, really good. We had some great guys doing the track at the time. The dirt was good. I love the dirt with gribby tracks, and then obviously the Oxford guys there try to make it good for everybody, but also of course for me as well, and that also made it possible to pass as well. Of course, in these times, the track's even better. They've got it even wider. When I first came from Birmingham to Oxford, that was one of my first sort of wishes was for it to be wider, because it was quite narrow when I first came. So they did that first before the season started when I came to Oxford, and it was a pretty good racing track. And of course now it's even wider and even better, and they improved the pits and everything in a nice place, and just the whole thing. I got to say, I mean, I had 9 great years with Oxford, and I'm really pleased to see now that the way it's going, that they came back again, that they got the 3 in all 3 leagues, and incredible, and good crowds and everything. So that's really really great. And as I say, I felt good while I was there, and a shame that I was only there for 9 years, but things went wrong in that after that, but which was a shame. But I would have liked to stay there a while longer. But it was really great times, and the best obviously times of my career riding for Oxford.
Thank you, Hans. I wonder if I may just ask you one closing question, Hans. And I wonder, given the general health state of World Speedway, Poland, Sweden, Denmark, the UK, etc. What's your views, Hans, on that health state generally? And do you look forward with confidence and optimism that the sport can prosper and grow further?
Well, obviously there's a lot of challenges. It's nice to see that Poland's taking the lead, and it's huge in Poland, and that is where the riders can sort of earn their main living, which is great. I'm always worried about over the years, everybody want to make a living, and not just the top guys, but others as well. And it's good to see that a place like Poland provides a good living for most of the professional riders. So no worries in Poland, but obviously in England it's been going up and down over the years, and I think all of us foreigners who've been riding in England in our career would like it to see it progress and succeed as much as possible. And at least it's been nice to see over the last 2 or 3 years more foreigners come over, top guys, and of course I haven't been visiting so many tracks the last few years, but I watch it on TV sometimes, and the crowds obviously need to be better, I guess, and we all wish for it to succeed, but it is a worry that also we need more riders, not just in England, but also Denmark. We have less and less active riders, not just professional, but in the sport as a whole. As you know, Denmark is a lot of amateur sports as well. We have obviously the small 50cc, the 85, the 190, and just the amateur league in the first division, and that has come down a lot over the last 10 years. It's nearly half licenses, so that's a problem, and I believe England has also been suffering, and other countries as well. So it is a bit of a worry, and we do have to work hard to get new riders into the sport. We mainly in Denmark try to get them in when they really they can start when they're like 3 years old on these small PVs, and that's where you got to get them to start, and then we've got to look after them when they move up on the 85 or the 190, but there are challenges also with expenses. It's very expensive. It's become very expensive now, especially for the top guys. Although that doesn't matter quite so much because they earn really good money in Poland. But it is the guys that start off. It's quite cheap on the PV, the 50cc, and then becomes a little more expensive on the 85, and then really expensive on the 500. And I've come up with a few ideas how I think we could save. You've probably seen that as well. I'm sure you all discussed it as well, how we should try and save some money. But I think we're just missing a bit of support, I think, from the governing bodies like FIM and stuff to try and make it cheaper. And I think we should work hard on that to make it more, maybe not, as I say, so much for the top guys. It's not too much a problem, but it is a problem for the guys just starting out on a 500cc and the first few years they ride. It is just too expensive with the tuners, the tires too expensive. Silencer is bad, with small pipe in now, and then it makes the engine hot, and you have to have them reconditioned after like 3 or 4 meetings, which is silly. So there's a lot of things I think that could be done, and I think we should discuss. But I don't really think it's being discussed enough, and I think something needs to be done.
That's really encouraging, Hans. That you see that with some changes, with the benefit of some changes, that we can move the sport in the right direction. Hans, we will keep a keen eye on all things in Brost in the Super League next season. Good luck with the museum and the hotel venture. We will gladly help to publicise any of that when the details are available. And Hans Nielsen, it's been a genuine pleasure to speak to you on 360 Speedway. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Nice talking to you
Thanks,
guys.
Hans. Thank you.
Thanks, Hans.